G'day, hey, hi, and welcome. All right, here we go again. Well, TGIF, toes going first. Also, thank God it's Friday. And I guess I got to do the World War III update right away. I know it's like nothing on my channel for years, then bang, But this is a big one, guys. It's such a big one. There's so much going on, so much to cover today. I'm covering the previous day because, look, where we were 6 days ago. This will now be 1 week at war, I think. Did it start on a Friday or Saturday? Yeah, I guess it's now 1 week in. The Iranians were supposed to surrender after 3 days, according to Trump. Kind of fucked up. Then he said it'd be about a week. Then it might be about 3 weeks. Now it looks like a month. Now it looks like it's going to be a couple of months. There's going to be boots on the ground. Hey, Kurds, can you rise up and go to war with Iran for us? we'll back you. Oh my God, this is just such a shit show. Oh my God, so much cover. But before I get into all that, I finished a book last night called The Bride Collector. Finally finished it, and I got to show you my two main books now. So the main book, second main book, is going to be this one, and this is the main book here. Look at this brick. I'm going to try to read as much of this today as I can. This is a really good book so far. I'm only like 30 some odd pages in. 42 pages, 43 pages. And I'll be reading that one. Yeah, why? Because you got to stay sane, right? I turned my hot water tank on for the first time in about a month. Still don't know why it froze. I have a hunch because I was walking over that part of the yard. My dad says where the line goes in the well, it's like near the top, so that's probably where it froze. But I guess it wasn't froze the whole way, so that was good. So what probably happened was when it froze, it was probably frozen in one spot like this, and then I probably ran the pump enough to get all the water out of the line before the whole line could freeze. So when it started to thaw a bit, yeah. So there we go. So I got water back. Hopefully it'll be back for the rest of the season. I asked my brother. He said he never ran out of water. He says it froze a few times, but it never ran out. So anyway, so I guess I'll start in. Oh, there's so much to cover here. Hopefully I get it all. I'm going to start in with the F-15s again. So we know 100% were shot down, and it looks like it was basically there's a Kuwaiti pilot. 2 more kills and he's going to be the first ace of the war. So, he's probably, shit, can we do this again? I want to be an ace. Nobody was killed. Okay. Male pilot A gets shot down in F-15. The Rio or WSO and the weapons specialist officer, whatever, he ejects, the other guy ejects. Guy comes down, bunch of freaking guys run up to him with pipes, and they're about to bash his head in because they thought he was an Iranian pilot, and he had to basically take it. No, I'm American. Are you sure? I'll bash you, that kind of thing, right? Durka. And it turns out, okay, no problem. The second pilot, they stuffed him in the back of a trunk of an SUV. He was fine. The other 2, I guess they ejected safely and landed wherever. And then the third pilot was a female pilot. Are you okay? Thank you for everything you do. Like, they're like totally kissing her ass. It's like, oh my God, like, talk about preferential treatment, eh? It's like, okay, she gets shot down in an F-15, okay, a weapon of death, but you're gonna, oh well, it's a woman. Like, they're probably, because they're Middle Eastern, eh? They probably think this poor girl's traumatized or whatever. And it's like, whatever. Gynocentric war. There we go. Anyway, you got that. But there might be 2 other F-15s. Now, one is about 90% chance that there's a 4th F-15 that got shot down. Obviously, the Pentagon is denying all that, but there does seem to be confirming reports of the one over Iraq. The one over Iran, that one, I'm pretty sure that's fake footage. It doesn't seem real. So possibly five, three absolute 100%, and possibly. So if there's five F-15s shot down, there's like that's like 200 million bucks worth of it. I mean, what's an F-15 worth? I mean, people look at just the initial cost, but like those things were designed around the time I was born. That's what, like 50 years ago, right? I think the F-15 was designed in '72, or took its first flights in '72, and then somewhere in the early 1980s, late 1970s, early 1980s, the airplanes were went on active duty. They were designed to take on the MiG-25, but with more of an emphasis on air superiority and maneuverability and stuff like that. And that was the plane for the job, right? It was like the F-22 of its day. And the F-15, in a dogfight is still a fantastic airplane, but it's getting outclassed by a lot of lighter airplanes that are just more maneuverable just because they're lighter, right? But one of the things about the F-15, and especially the Eagle variant, Strike Eagle variant, is that you have two people. That's why there was 6 people bailed out. You got 2 people per airplane, and the thing is you can carry a lot of weapons on that for a long range. So it's kind of a no-brainer aircraft. Like somewhere around the 1950s, okay, because air-to-air refueling wasn't really the thing yet, every jet had to have at least a 1,200-mile range. And then air-to-air refueling starts to really become a thing by the end of the 50s and definitely into the 60s. Suddenly, they start cutting down range for lightweight aircraft, what they call budget air force. So think like F-16, F-18s, whatever. Because like the F-14s, they had a good range, but 12 to 1,600 mile range, and then you could put a drop tank and you could fly them almost all day on that. Same with the F-4 Phantoms, right? But these were big, heavy airplanes that required a lot of fuel and whatever, but they had a lot of range. But they also had more powerful engines, more wing area, and they could carry more weapons. And then almost everything after that, from pretty much the F-16s and F-18s on, are like 600-mile range or less, right? And then the F-35 is starting to increase range again. The Russians were always like, it has to have a 2,000-mile plus range. Canada, we kind of, like the CF-100 had an internal range of 2,000 miles because it was a patrol interceptor is what it was, right? The A-10, I think, has about a 2,000-mile range. The A-6 Prowlers, 1,600 miles, 1,800 miles, 2,000-mile range. Like, these are what you need, right? The Israelis, like I talked in yesterday's video, they've adapted stealth drop tanks to their F-35s so they can eliminate the tanker usage or the reliance on tankers, because tankers kind of give your, if you see a tanker in the air and there's nothing else around it, there's some stealth aircraft in the area. But the Americans have committed about 64 tankers, I think, to this campaign, when they only have about 100. So let that part sink in. So you can see what I mean, that the Iranians are going to really use those tankers as a high-value target. But it's basically, and I know a lot of my audience is kind of like, Reg, no, the Iranians they're losing big time because they're getting, they've lost half their navy. There's between 20 and 30 warships have been destroyed. Mind you, they call anything a warship. There are some high value targets that were hit in the Iranian Navy. There's no doubt about that. I believe the whatever that sub was sitting at the dock did get hit. It was probably waiting for parts or whatever. I know there was a few corvettes that got hit at the dock, and maybe one frigate. And then that frigate coming back from Sri Lanka, yes, it was on a drill in international waters when it was sunk by the U.S. Now, the thing is that maybe on behalf, the Iranians kind of were a little bit foolish on their behalf, thinking that, okay, because the ship is not in the war at that moment, it's not a target, but it could be on the other side of the planet, it's a target. But that also expands the battlefield. That means if the Iranians, their two Kylo subs, which we don't know where they are, those are their long range subs. I mean, they're not the longest range, they're not a nuclear sub, but they do have a 5 to 6,000 mile range. My hunch is they're going to show up in either Guam or Norfolk, or maybe Pensacola or something like that. Wherever the big East Coast Navy bases are, I mean, I would not be surprised if Iran did it, because nobody would expect that, right? But they might not do it either. There's a couple of things. We're going to get back to the, where is the U.S. fleet? Nobody really knows where they are. Because they don't stay in one spot, and they're going to be moving at a speed of 20 to 40 knots, probably an average of about probably 10 to 12 knots. Just for economics sake, right? Because you burn up fuel pretty fast at 20 knots. It depends, it depends where they are. Like, I'm sure, like, when they're out of the danger zone, they slow down a bit, but when they're moving through the danger zone, they probably, especially during carrier operations, the more headwind you can get, the slower your airplanes can take to the sky. The more lift they're going to get coming off the runway, the easier it is for them to get airborne, and the safer, right? So I think it was day 1 or day 2, whatever, day 3, whichever day it was, there was a report that said that the Iranians had fired 4 rockets to sink the Abraham Lincoln, but they didn't come close. Okay, now here's the kicker. I think what they were doing was ranging and letting the United States know that we know you're there, and we can hit you anytime we want. So in other words, it was a message being sent. And the message was definitely received, because if it was truly no threat, the U.S. Navy would have stayed course, which they were reported at about 350 kilometers, which is about 250 miles off the coast of Iran when this incident happened. And they immediately altered course to head out about 1,000 kilometers, 700 to 1,000 kilometers out, which means they actually fear getting hit, which is a big statement when you think about it. What it tells you is the U.S. carrier fleet Navy is no longer the deterrent. It's basically the Iranians' choice whether they sink it or not. And I think there's 2 trains of thought I got here. Number one is, A, they can't do it, right? They don't have the weapons, which I don't believe that for a second. B, they don't want to do it yet, because they don't want to rally around the flag. They're watching all the chaos taking place in the United States. They're holding up kind of just fine. The PR's horrible for the United States. Many right-wing Americans are completely ashamed of bombing the school. And yes, it is confirmed now that it was a U.S. bomb that killed those girls in the school. I think there was like 185 people killed. I don't know how many were the little girls, and between the ages of 8 and 12 years old. It was a girls' school. So you're not going to get like the 1990s Madame Albright out there saying, "Oh yes, we believe the cost is worth it right now." Because, like, guys, when I said Trump was going to be, I'm not calling for this, but I can't see how it doesn't happen at this point. Trump is going to be assassinated most likely by a U.S. veteran. If you haven't seen the video of the veteran getting his arm broken, a guy decked out in medals like that, I forget the senator's name is he/she, like his last name is he/she. Kind of a, I don't know if it's pronouns or whatever, people joking about that. But this guy, as soon as this veteran he was tackled right away just for criticizing Israel, right? He wasn't like your radical, rabid leftist disrupting in that sense. He was just saying, look, this is Israel's war, blah, blah, blah. And you go watch the footage, and you're watching Americans cry over this, like literally tears in the eyes, because what it represents. This is like the fall from grace. I'm like, that's PR. I mean, to bomb a girls' school in 1 week on an illegal war, and then now you're seeing Vietnam-style treatment towards veterans, where it's like, you either tote Israel's line or we're going to break your arm. And you can hear this guy's arm snap. He was grabbing onto the door closed on his hand, so I guess it held him there. And as he was going out, like there was two doors side by side. As they drag him, he hears arm snap. His arm's like this, right? And they put the cuffs on his arms, all fucked up, and the guy, a chest full of medals. So what are the pro Zionist MAGA people that are left going to say? Oh, what? He's just a libtard? No, this guy already served your country, man. Yeah, I'm sure if they could have him shot, they would. Yeah, you got a girl out there. Like, I can't believe my brother's gone. I just talked to him. Blah blah blah. The dad. Oh well. It was the job he loved the most, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, these people are still in shock. Give them 6 months, give them a year. They will be the front line of the anti-war protests. You're about to see Vietnam-style war protests. The difference is we're doing it in the digital age, so it's going to be seen everywhere. It's all around the world. In Poland, Warsaw, Poland, people are at the embassy base protesting the deaths of these girls. All over the Middle East. U.S. embassies are being attacked all over the Middle East, right? You're going to see those people killed. People were already shot in either Sri Lanka or Pakistan at the U.S. consulates there because, and yes, that was Pakistani soldiers or whatever that shot the protesters, but you get the idea. People are dying already. But there's only 6 Americans that have died in this conflict so far. I fucking find that hard to believe. It's going to be god awful when we actually hear the real numbers. The 6 that died, they told them to go. Yeah, trust your government. Safe and effective. 2 weeks to get the curve. Get in the shipping container with the plate glass windows. You'll be fine. Yeah. Fucking, yeah, they got fucking vaporized in that fucking shipping container. Yeah, there's your bunker. It's got bulletproof windows on it. I'm sure the windows were fine, but the rest of it got turned to Swiss cheese. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just like, it's like pinch me. Like, is this real? Like, you can only sit and laugh at the madness and the chaos of it all because it's like, it so defies logic. It's just like this whole, we have to go to war with it doesn't matter if we're talking Trump, Putin, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like, how are these people so fucking evil? Why do they have to kill everybody? You know what I mean? I get it. I know. I understand it. I understand the death cult nihilist gene that, plagues half of humanity. I understand right-hand path, left-hand path. I understand the biblical end times doomers. I understand it all. But even still, I'm like, the gods must be crazy. Again, 2 movies every person on the planet should be mandatory watching in school. Gods Must Be Crazy, or 3. Gods Must Be Crazy, Catch-22, and Moon Over Parador. Because the parallels to real life in those movies is just, oh my God. And it's not even, and we're just getting started. Like, these are the opening salvos, guys. But there's another really scary angle of this. Okay, Trump out there, well, they want to fight, well, we want to fight more. Like a big tough guy, right? Again, Trump has no idea what he's doing. Nobody in the administration can seem to be coordinated on why they're going to war. It changes every 5 minutes, like, you know what I mean? Because they can't say the quiet part out loud. But a veteran did, and his arm got broken for it. He got arrested. You see where this is going? You see where it's going? Oh, having my Friday finger of the. So I didn't put too much into it today because I got Crown Royal in there and Pepsi. So, but there's 7 bottles up there now, so it'll be 7 weeks before I get a taste of it. I put less in it this time because, like, the last time I only did like about a half a finger, but I put even less than that in the time. I find the Crown Royal really saturates. Like you can put like a bottle of Pepsi like that, and put like that much. All you'll taste is Crown Royal. Like it doesn't dilute easy. Yeah. And now that I got my running water, I can wash the glass good too. I've been rinsing it out with like my thermos. Yeah, so that's all I have for, once a week, just a little, just every Friday. It's a little ritual I do. I don't really drink anymore. Like, I never want to ever be hungover again in my life. I've done it enough, right? I'm sure it will happen at some point. But even at that, like the last time I went out, I think I drank like 4 beers, and I was like, that's enough for me. Make me sleepy. You get to that age, right? Um, but anyway, yeah, let's get back on track here. So the British, are they in? Are they out? I have no idea. It's like, we're sending assets to the region to defend our, like we're gonna, all the pronoun and hate speech laws have basically sucked up the funding for the of the Navy. So basically, I think they can send one Type 45 destroyer. The other ones are like all down for maintenance. All their subs are down for maintenance. And the thing is, the British build good stuff. They've got the Eurofighter Typhoon. I think those are going again to defend bases and stuff like that. Canada, look, Justin Trudeau brought in all these diversity hires and whatever. They made all kinds of accusations against, whether it was true or not, against all the military brass when Justin Trudeau got in. It was part of the Me Too thing, right? And it is exactly what I said the Me Too thing was about, was getting male CEOs and generals and whatever out of place so you can do all the diversity hiring. So they've got this female general, which you could tell she cares more about pronouns than actual military strategy. I'm not saying she's horrible, but we got two major generals that are female, and it's like she's just talking the boss, secretary, office lady. Yeah, well, we're gonna just company line. Like there's no forethought. So are we going to war? Are we not? It would be an outrage. Carney's taking a lot of backlash for even showing it's like, where's the fucking elbows up? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if there's, you want to fight Carney or Trump on one thing, on this or that, that's fine. We're going to get into those two guys too. Fine. But then you choke on this, and say, no, so he knows that it's not popular, right? So, and they really can't trigger Article 5. And no, it won't destroy NATO. Look, the United States is going to be removed from NATO. NATO's still going to stand. It's just, they might call it something else. Right now, you got the Nordic 5 with us for the Arctic. And again, remember I told you guys probably a couple of days ago, maybe even a few weeks ago, I was telling you, if you're going to see military, military, you're going to see Canadian military all over Canada, right? And they've been really, really hammering, since the 51st state thing of last year, really starting to see a lot of presence, a Canadian presence in the Arctic. But now take this with a grain of salt. I don't know which side would have released it, but apparently the transcripts, or not the transcripts, but the actual phone call between Carney and Trump has been heard. And again, guys, I've been telling you, the United States is going to go to war with us. Maybe not right after Iran, but we're on, again, I said it would happen either down near the Great Lakes, which, we're getting into the territory where the Gordie Howe Bridge incident, that's still going on. Doug Ford was talking about that the other day. Getting that opened up again. And, Trump wants to seize territory around there, right? Take Canadian land. And then, of course, the disputed, it's not disputed, there's no dispute. It's our territory. There's no gray area where the Northwest Passage is. It goes right in. It's not it's not considered a international waterway. It's not. It's just way too far inland to even be close to. You could say that the Darius Strait has an international water, goes out to the Atlantic. But we're talking, this doesn't even come out to the Arctic Ocean until the far end. You know what I mean? It's not even joined up with the Atlantic. It's an inland waterway, very clearly. It's huge, but it's still, like the Hudson's Bay is clearly Canadian territory. And it's much, that probably is more volume than what the Northwest Passage is. And what Trump said to Carney, allegedly, he probably did, said, look, here's the deal. We'll drop the tariffs if you back us on taking Greenland, basically, and if you let, a few other things. It was really dumb stuff that we'd never agreed to. And then he added the threat that, we're going to put Canadian or American warships, the U.S. pirate navy is going to be going through the Northwest Passage, and if the Canadian Navy tries to stop them, they're going to have a bad day. So you take out if that was what was said. Most likely it was. Why? Because Trump likes to threaten, and he's going to war with everybody. The Venezuela thing again, whether this is true or not, I wouldn't doubt it. But again, so look, why was this? Why was this so successful? Well, they bribed everybody with something like $500 million or something. Like all they said, yeah, we're going to give your country $500 million or whatever it was, or 50,000 each, or whatever it was. It was something like $500 million, whatever, that you guys would get if you let us get Maduro, right? So that's why it was a successful raid. But then Trump stiffed them. He didn't pay them. So, like I say, Trump is not going to live to the end of the year. Like, he's going to be out of office one way or another. If he's still alive, I'll be surprised. But I mean, you're making a lot of enemies. You got all these sleeper cells that are, the House of Islam all around the world. Pissing off all the veterans, pissing off, probably a lot of active. Like again, how much active duty military is about to do a military coup in the States? You'd say, "Oh, that never happened here. They're too loyal." There's no such thing as loyalty. there's loyalty to paychecks. That's about it. All these constitutionalists, look at all these constitutional cops, doing unconstitutional laws. And like it's look at all these constitutional lawyers being unconstitutional. Like look at all the politicians. Like the corruption is just absolute. We got to wrangle it one way or another. I don't know how we have to take down the whole system and start over again. How we do it, I don't know. There's no. The only way out is through. There's no painless way out of this. But that said, this is probably why you're seeing an uptick in Canadian defense spending. It's mainly, look, everybody's looking at how Iran is holding off two very powerful countries. Like Israel's not nowhere near as powerful as the United States, except for the fact that it wields the United States as its sword, right? Because the United States is completely like the United States is not a Christian nation. It's not a Judeo-Christian nation. It is a Jewish nation. I think Ramsey Paul was right on that because you do whatever Israel says, right? And when you got veterans getting their arms broken, I mean, talk about bad PR. How is Trump? What's he going to call that guy? Like a libtard or something? Like what's he going to do, right? Yeah, especially a guy with a chest full of medals. Like you couldn't pick any worse PR, right? When everybody knows this is a full like. And then, of course, the GOP, like again, Trump guaranteed that a conservative government around the world could probably never get elected again, let alone in the United States. But the GOP, they unanimously shot down because they have the House and the Senate. They unanimously shot down the Democrats for calling off the war. Like saying no, this is not like this is not constitutional. We didn't vote. Congress didn't debate it whether we should go to war or not. And like Mark Carney, there again, you have to understand when he speaks, he does speak in riddles and tongues diplomatically. So when he's out there saying, "Look, the reason why we're in the situation is you can take two things out of this. A, I'm looking for a way to get into the war, to back Israel, and keep Trump happy." Or he's saying, look, the reason why we have this is because the UN is pretty much useless. He didn't say that directly, but if international organizations were too slow to act and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and then, suddenly this is what happens. Well, who's the international organization? The fucking UN, right? The UN is useless. They are useless, right? I get that. But it's a sobering call because Kim Jong-un, okay, has sent out a message, and this should be a chilling one for most people. Kim Jong-un, the hermit kingdom known as North Korea, nobody wants to live there. Sure, I get it. Neither do I. But he just got validation for his people that the reason why we're so authoritarian, the reason why we've spent almost all our money on nuclear weapons and stuff like that is because of what is happening to Iran. This could, like if they did this to us, the rockets going out wouldn't be low yield rockets, they would be nuclear rockets. And basically, it makes the case for might makes right. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make Kim Jong Un right. It means that the North Korean people, I'm sure they're going to be propagandized with this that say, look, we have nuclear weapons, and look what's not happening to us. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean, and in this day and age, it doesn't matter. We're not dealing like during the Cold War. Yes, you had evil war hawks and stuff like that, but they were at least intelligent. You know what I mean? Like the generation of people that we have running governments now are so fucking stupid. Like because you have to understand, most of them are the subverted, right? The people that brought the propaganda and then took power, not the people that came up with the propaganda to propagandize people. That's why communism always fails, or globalism, whatever you want to call it now, because you need lunatics to run it. The problem is, this time when it fails, it's in the nuclear age. The tail end of the nuclear age, going into we're ending the nuclear jet age, going into the transhumanist fusion age, right? We're into that crossover, and with the AI and stuff like that. But let's get back to some other stuff. So North Korea put out the statement saying, ready to help. Just give the word. Okay. Well, analysts are saying, like, yeah, the North Koreans are going to very carefully choose their words here, and what do they mean by that? Are they already helping? What do they, what does that mean, right? We know the North Koreans have been helping the Russians out in Ukraine, even with troops and stuff like that. So you could see and again, it's in North Korea's interest to do this. Why? Because if they can get global data, they don't care how many North Koreans get killed in the process. But let's say there's a ground invasion and suddenly, you got all these Iranians, but in the front cannon fodder is all these North Koreans, right? Well, they learn every time these guys fight. That's every military. You learn from the fight, right? You don't learn from war planning. You learn from the battle. You know what I mean? Because nothing goes according to plan, right? And if they can get experience on fighting the Americans, and with coordination with the Iranians, which they've been coordinating with the Iranians forever and a day on weaponry and stuff like that, what you could see is a lot of technical data being transferred to the Iranians for miniaturization, which means they might not build a thermonuclear bomb, but they have enough uranium to build even more terrifying weapons. And that is basically dirty bombs, right? Neutron bombs. The neutron bomb is almost all radiation. Very, like, they don't blast big, but there's all radiation. Now, the Iranians have said that they were going to use the cheap stuff first, and then they were going to roll out more sophisticated weapons as they went. And let's go back to the incident with the carrier groups of the Iranians firing on the carrier group, making the U.S. carrier have to move, right? Meaning it couldn't stay there. So this idea that you're going to put warships in the Strait of Hormuz to escort tankers, this is a pipe dream, because they'll be sunk right away if the Iranians want to. So right now, what we're learning is that the Iranians can sink these aircraft carriers with relative ease, if they should choose to do so. But they're choosing not to. Again, they don't want to rally around the flag. But they are doing other things, because the longer this war goes on, the more payback they can get too. But they've upgraded the weapons from, and this is why, I've already talked about this. One of the things we do know about the Iranian strategy is that when the missile defenses are plentiful, you get large barrages, and they just overwhelm, and whatever gets through, right? Well, they've taken out 2 or 3 THAAD systems, a couple of Patriot systems, the most powerful radar the 2 most powerful radar stations in the area. One radar was covering a 5,000 kilometer radius, the entire Middle East and half of Europe. You know what I mean? And now that early warning, which it cuts down the response time to the point where, they're hitting out past Turkey now. They're hitting Azerbaijan. Yeah, they're hitting U.S. assets in Azerbaijan. Just so you know. Yeah. Oh, the Iranians. Oh, they can't fight back. They're hitting again. Let's grab my glasses here. I gotta go look at my map. Um, I know granny glasses. Not that if you want. Iran, Azerbaijan, right over here. You know they were firing on Turkey, right? Israel's way the hell over here. So look at this. This is one hell of a radius that they're hitting, right? Let's see. Wow, that was the radius of the radar that got taken out. That's crazy. Unless it was kilometers. If it was kilometers, 5,000 kilometers is still 3,500 miles. Wow. So that's what you can't see coming anymore. Which explains why the Israelis, which are, I don't know how many Iron Domes they've lost, but I think they've lost a few THAADs, or what's called David Slings and THAAD systems as well, and a few Patriot systems as well. This is why the Iranians, they're not able to stop the rockets coming in, so they don't need to fire 200 barrages of 200. Plus, they can keep it going longer. But what they're doing now, because I mean, there's only so many targets you can hit, right? And then once you hit all these targets, then what do you hit, right? So in Israel, like I mean, yes, Tel Aviv is getting fucking hammered, big time. I know there because there's an internet blackout in Israel. There's very little coming out, but there is some stuff coming out. Uh, the Again, we're not going to get. It's the same as Ukraine. You're not going to get accurate war dead numbers. You're not going to get accurate. Things are not going to be. They're like neither side can tell the truth, right? That should be clear as day. That the Americans can't tell you how many soldiers have actually been killed. Uh, and there is a mixture of like soldiers from other nations too, because everybody's on the base together, right? But that said, there's more than 6 people killed. Like there was only 6 people left on the base when it landed, and they ran into the shipping container to save their lives. Which at least put the shipping container underground. That might have helped a bit, but yeah, yeah. That'll save you. Yeah, fuck no. Look, the Iranians put a missile right through a synagogue, right down into the bunker below it, and that killed I forget how many people. But so you're telling me that the Iranians can hit with that kind of precision, hit like civilian bunkers, which there would probably be military people in there too. Because they look at it all as it's all war targets, right? They're hitting airports. They're hitting this. The reason why they're hitting the airports is because almost beside every airport is an Israeli base, right? So basically, air travel in and out of just like I said, when they take out the to get in and out of Israel now, I think is impossible. Unless you got a rowboat, So yeah, no, the war dead is going to be astronaut. Like if you're killing all these civilians and all these civilians around the bases, how many people are you killing on the base? You know what I mean? Like it's like this idea that there was, okay, here's our $1.2 billion radar installation. We're going to evacuate and leave just 6 people there. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't buy it, right? Yeah, so there's probably more like 60 or 100 people that were killed. Because they can't leave these bases completely undefended, right? So it's probably in the thousands. My hunch is, we're not going to hear it for a while. And again, considering what Trump is doing, like you're going to find out from people online coming, yeah, there's more than 6. Look, I'm talking to other people. It'll take them a week or two to say, hey, well, okay, the 6 dead. My dad, my brother, my uncle, my cousin, my sister, whoever, my wife, whoever was serving over there, they got killed. Why? They weren't mentioned. The 6 people mentioned were that they weren't amongst the names. Well, my person, well, me too. My brother, uncle, dad, whatever. is dead too, and they didn't, that's 8 people now. And then so 2 people come on, yeah, well that happened to me. And then suddenly you're going to see all these videos of people popping up saying, yeah, I can't get a hold of my loved one over in the Middle East because you got people trapped there, you got tourists trapped there, you got everybody's trapped there. They can't get out, right? They have to find other ways out. They can't get home. You got people in Europe that want to get back home to their home countries, but they can't, right? Because nothing's going in, nothing's going out. Yeah, at least not airwise. The big one here is that the Iranians of okay, the way they use they have to program their rockets for different targets, right? And that takes time. So that's why every few days or so, it's like there's a bit of a chill out because they've taken out the targets that they've needed to take out, so they're finding more targets, so that takes time, and then on top of that, there's less air defenses, so 2 rockets will do when you used to have to send 30, which means the war's going to go on a lot fucking longer. That's why they're saying it now, looking like it's going to be a couple of months, because it's like, okay, like when you see the volleys coming in at 200, they're trying to overwhelm Iron Dome and all that stuff. You're watching the rockets coming in, and there's like no Iron Dome there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're out of missiles, but I'm saying the supply chain is not doing so well. And you had a U.S. base weapons depot hit really bad in Iraq, so God knows how many missiles and stuff got blown up there. You had a French military base hit, a British military base hit, fucking bases hit all over the place. Anything in the region, they're hitting it. Like they're looking at it all as the enemy, right? So it's not the Iranians just, oh my God, they're a desperate nation lashing out. No, yeah, they're taking losses, but you have to understand, not every bomb that's been dropped that hit a target is actually hitting a target. They're like decoys. There was a helicopter. Everybody's probably seen the helicopter. It looks like it was actually painted on the ground. They even painted the shadow part too. It's like you hit it, like the thing doesn't, like the blades don't go flying off. Nothing. It's like, oh fuck, it was. Like they got like they're pulling a road runner. Like they're painting like fake doors on the side of cliffs and stuff like that to make it look like a cave, right? Some of the caves are getting hit, but I mean it's nothing a bulldozer can't take care of. You know what I mean? Trump saying that the rocket trucks are getting hit 4 minutes after they come out. Maybe 1 or 2 got hit 4 minutes after they came out just by luck, but no, like it takes the cruise missiles hours to get there. 250 miles off. Okay, 250 miles off the course. That's about a 20-minute to half an hour flight just to the coast, right? And then whatever time, it's probably about an hour. You're looking at 2-3 hours per missile, right? They only fly at like 500 and some odd miles per hour. They're not that fast, right? So it's the Iranians aren't wasting their air defense systems. It seems. But again, it's hard to say because we don't have the footage or whatever. But anytime you usually see the footage of the Iranians trying to shoot down cruise missiles, they don't typically use their missiles to do it. They keep their missiles for aircraft and stuff like that, and they use AAA like Zu-23s or whatever, because they probably got a gazillion of them down there. Boots on the ground. Okay, the Iranians are saying that well, boots on the ground. Yeah, well, no, we're waiting for you. Come ahead, we're waiting for you. So in other words, the ambush alleys, oh man, I don't like, you're not going to Red Dawn style like Iraq was a different thing, right? Iraq, you could do it because you could land in the middle of the desert far enough away from any sort of the military that you had time to set up a base, right? The Iraqis, yes, they were a 4-man military, but guys with like 2 weeks training, just enough to know that, like when you get your AK, the bullets come out that end. Don't shoot yourself. Like they literally had like, the Iraqi Republican Guard, the ones that were really good, like the Iraqi Special Forces that are still around today. There's like a handful of them, maybe 20,000 guys, 30,000 guys tops, and they're elite soldiers. But the rest of them are just like, they gave them a uniform and a rifle. They got less training than the average conscript. So yeah, Desert Storm was a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Like that they were going to win it. So Iraq and Afghanistan, yes, Taliban didn't have an air force, right? They barely had any artillery. They have mortars or whatever. It's all small arms that they have. So you can defend against that long enough to build a base. Iran, well, they've got like state of the art stuff on low levels, but they do have a lot of stuff that'll like they got lots of artillery, lots of well, just rockets. Like like you will not be able to set up a base. But the new weapons that are coming out now, and what I said was that the Iranians could use some sort of, if the rockets weren't accurate enough, what they would probably do is use the rockets to range in the warships and use cluster bomb, and fire for effect. So you have like air bursts, say 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet above the ground, or whatever radar height, maybe 100 feet above the ground, even 80 to 100 feet above the ground is probably right where the radar domes are on most of the warships. And if you're close enough, you might damage the antennas and degrade the detection ability. So right now, the United States, the way the Iranians are working is they take out the radar so you can't detect them, and then after that, it's the guidance system, the tracking, what they use the radar to detect, and they got like tracking units, right, and that can laze the target, can lock onto the target, and fire control, and you can shoot. And then you got the actual launcher, right? So it's always like a triad of you have your detection, your countermeasures, you're basically locking onto it, all that stuff, and then you've got your missile interceptor. And to lose that, like, you have to understand, any of that stuff that gets taken out of the game today. Okay, like the missiles are going to take about 12 years to replace for the high-tech PAC-6 missiles, right? The launchers themselves will still take months to build. They're like, just the launchers about $800,000, $1 billion, whatever. Like they're not cheap. These things are not cheap. The support stuff for it, again, if you kill, if you attack a Patriot missile battery and you kill everybody that runs it, you kill 90 people, approximately 90 people. And those people take 5 years to train up, or the missileers, they take about 5 years to train up. Air defense is very, very difficult. It's difficult enough, for example, last year, do you remember last year there was 2 F-18s that were lost in the Persian Gulf, right? One was the aircraft carrier, or sorry, no, it was in the Red Sea. Because what happened was the Houthis had a missile on track with an aircraft carrier, so they had to swerve to get out of its way while it was being jammed, but they still had to swerve to get the aircraft carrier out of the way, and they turned so hard that an F-18 went flying up, rolling off the deck. Well, there was also an Ollie Burke that shot down the other F-18 about 2 weeks after in a friendly fire incident, because again, they mistaken it for a Houthi cruise missile, and they shot down the F-18. So friendly fire incidents are different, definitely a thing. So this, is one of those things that you have to keep in mind, that when you think the U.S. warships are so invincible, they can't even distinguish whether it's friend or foe easily. You know what I mean? That's how difficult it is. So just because you got a bleep on a target, this is why the Iranians, when they go no fly zone, that's why they'll shoot down anything that's in the sky, because everything's supposed to be grounded. Therefore, if it's in the sky, it's probably an enemy. So far, they've lost an airliner like that, and I think a dignitary on a helicopter. Yeah, so they sometimes accidentally shoot their own stuff down because the coordination is not that good. And one of the reasons why this Kuwaiti pilot shot down the U.S. pilots is because they probably didn't have the IFF identification friend or foe signal was not. They didn't have the proper codes to identify that it was a friend. Therefore, the F-15s probably registered as enemies, and they probably thought that they were MiG-29s, looking at the profile from a distance. And he fired 3 missiles and got 3 kills. There we go. That happened. So friendly fire, if friendly fire is that confusing, right? Now tell me how you don't lose a warship. You know what I mean? I mean, what happens when you have an Iranian warship um, in an area that's being tracked and amongst a bunch of freighters and stuff, and all of a sudden you see a warship, you lock onto it, you fire it, and you realize it was an Ollieberg shooting at an Ollieberg, right? And they shoot at each other and they sink each other, and you have massive friendly fire casualties. You know, you still lose the assets. It doesn't matter if it's a friendly fire. Like those F-15s that have been shot down, whether it's 3 or 4 of them, are never going to fly again. You know, I mean, they're smushed into the ground. They're burnt. They're not even good for parts anymore. You know, maybe there might be a few parts. Hey, keep the rear view mirror or something. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. Uh, but the other thing is that like with what's going on, it's happening fast. My hunch is that I'm thinking that they're going to use the submarines to either encircle the carrier groups, right? Because at this point they must know where they are on a daily basis. Um, and if we see like these incidents where the Iranians fire rockets but they keep missing, right? But the fact that the rockets are near, like say within uh, even 10 miles of the carrier group, what the Iranians are saying is, we know exactly where you are. You know, we're missing you on purpose. That's what they're saying, and I believe it too, because like the Iranian missiles are probably not going to be as sophisticated as the American missiles. I think we can all agree on that. But they're going to be sophisticated enough, and not only that, if the Iranians plan their strikes properly, you could get what happened to one of the bases in Syria when the Iranians basically took one of their drones and followed in a U.S. drone and completely undetected, because the Americans just thought it was just a drone with the IFF off, and coming in, and suddenly they find out it was actually a attack drone. I forget how many, I think 10 or 20 Americans got killed on that. That was last year, the year before, whatever. So the Iranians clearly show that they can get close to stuff. They can attack it. Will they use torpedoes to attack? I don't know. But if the subs are out there, trailing the U.S. fleets, it's only a matter of time before they make that decision. Because again, you lose those carrier groups, you don't get them back. You lose those tankers, it'll be 10 years before you can build them back. Like everything, like back in the 1950s, the aircraft were quick to build because they had stable airframes. They didn't rely on fly-by-wire, just hydraulics, right? Like an F-35, I mean, it took them 10 years just to get the program to be able to fly the fucking things. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bad design. I never understood that. Like, the MiG-29 proves that you can have super maneuverability without fly-by-wire. There was no reason to ever go fly-by-wire. Like I understand some of the logics behind it, because at one point it did clean up a lot of electronics and everything like that, and made it was cheaper. It was there was an actual sort of an element of safety to it to a degree, but at the end of the day, and then of course smoother flight. So that's mainly why you do it. But if you went more analog, you could build stuff a lot faster. You know what I mean? Look, the low tech works no matter what is outpacing the high tech stuff. And that's exactly what the Iranians are doing. Yes, they're taking lots of hits. But so far, of all the stuff that I've seen hit, I don't see a lot of really, game changers, right? And that's the thing that the Trump admitted. Like, you can't win the war from the air. They are striking over Iran. Are they doing it with absolute impunity? I don't know. But it does seem like they are getting closer, going over Tehran. When you see a B-52 over Tehran, then you know that the air defense systems are not really working, or they're holding them back. I think they're more holding them back. It just doesn't make sense that they would sacrifice that early on, right? Because there's no real footage of missile intercepts on things such as cruise missiles and stuff like that. They're not wasting it on that. I think they're because they know there's a bigger battle coming, so they're probably just hanging on. So yeah, we'll endure the the raids and we'll knock things out when they're on the ground because it's cheaper. But they're using cluster munition rockets, right? Which is I don't know if that's an escalation or not because what that's telling you is that they don't need the heavy hitters. You know what I mean? Now they can just fire for effect, and it's just like like artillery. Okay, well, just like the targets are now softer, so whatever. So the Iranians reducing their rocket attacks is not necessarily a sign of weakness. It seems like they're firing less rockets now because they don't need to, and dispersing them further, such as Azerbaijan, Turkey, that kind of stuff, right? But the nightly attacks on Israel is you got all these Israelis out there crying and whining about why are they always doing this to us? Why? Well, you attacked them. What do you think was going to happen? Again, everybody knows this war is for Israel. The corruption is deep. I just wish the Democrats were calling out the Obama administration and the Biden administration and not just using this as a weapon against the Trump administration. Yes, Trump is a war criminal, the same as the rest of them. But the thing is they're all war criminals. Everybody in the Congress for the past 40, 50, well, probably, you got to go back to the Bush administration and whoever's left alive because they're all old. And, crimes against humanity, hang them high. We've got to do it to every one of them. Anybody that's, again, look at their voting record. If they voted in favor of a war, then, okay, well, what was the justification for the war? And if you can't find a good justification for the war, then there needs to be treason charges, crimes against humanity charges, and we need to hang these people high. You know what I mean? If we ever want to have an honest government, we have to have accountability, and death is a good accountability. It makes for good accountability. Yeah, that said, this needs to be a worldwide thing because these global elites are just they're just disgusting. They're disgusting. It doesn't matter if they're on the right or on the left or whatever. They just do horrible things to the. There's not a single good politician anywhere in the world right now. There's some that are more tolerable than others, some that are doing less damage. But at the end of the day, all these progressives, trying to destroy their own countries because of white guilt and bullshit like that. And then you got the other ones that just want to destroy every other country because of fucking Israel said so. The Zionist neocon evangelical doomers. Yeah, we've had enough of them. You know what I mean? It's time to say no more. And again, look, if we keep following this course, you have to understand it ends in a thermonuclear war, right? Because Israel is going to nuke Iran, and that will be the end of Israel when it does. They will kill a lot of Iranians, there's no doubt about that. And the Iranians are anticipating an Israeli nuclear strike, right? The Iranians respond in kind. You hit, they hit. You hit, they hit. They've always been in response mode. So to call them the aggressors, no. When it's a war, when you start a war with them, they're not looking at it, well, it's just limited strikes. And this is where Trump, once again, and his administration completely miscalculated. But again, they don't really miscalculate. They know that the Iranians are going to fight to the death, right? So I started, if you know this, because they're evil. Don't overthink it. They're just fucking evil. These people, they want to kill us, let alone them. You know what I mean? Think of all the bad shit that they're doing to us. They want to kill us, let alone, people in the, the Iranians, right? So yeah, but people are waking up out of it. Again, hopefully, just blindly following orders is the problem that we have, And again, okay, these guys, I trained to go blow shit up. I want to go blow shit up. Okay, I get that. But don't bitch and whine when you're captured. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be fucking brutal to you when they capture you. If you're lucky, you get shot down by friendly fire over friendly territory. But you get shot down over Iran, yeah, you might as well just, take the cyanide pill, put the pistol in your mouth. Because, they're going to be fucking brutal for you. Brutal with you. They are going to get a lot of information out of you before you die. I'll just say that. they're gonna fucking torture the shit out of you. You know, and can you blame them? You know what I mean? Like, again, it's hard to be mad at the Iranians right now. Sure, I don't like the Iranian Empire. I'm not a fan of the Iranian government. I don't think anybody is. But it's the same thing with Maduro. You didn't have to do that. You know, Trump going, oh well, now they're getting all this money from the oil and we're selling. You're giving the fucking oil to Israel. You're not fucking selling any of it. Like, who the fuck did they sell the oil to? You know, you stole the oil. You know, like it's yeah. It's the lies, the betrayal, the constant betrayal. Um, yeah, I guess I can keep this one a bit shorter for today. Again, keep an eye on the cluster weapons. Look, Patriot missiles, there's still lots of them left. There's probably way more stockpiles than they're saying. Yes, they're using the old stuff first, but that's not always the smartest idea because it's less capable. And look, losing the radar station versus using slightly, it's kind of like driving really fast on cheap tires. You know, that's about like picture like a Formula One car with like cheap tires. You know, just because yeah, well, we're going to save the good tires for the last race. You're not going to make it to the last race. You're going to die. Why? Cheap tires. Well, it's the same thing with the missiles. You know, like yeah. And again, the Iranians, it works better for them because of the the nature of the rockets. They're a one way, and these drones they're not coming back. They're a one way trip, right? And these cheap drones have been the stars of the show for them. Like they're hitting everything with it. You got a 2,000 pound drone. Half of it's warhead, the other half is pretty much fuel. You know what I mean? They fly 1,000 miles, whatever it is. They hit shit, they blow it up. The Americans have tried to mass produce the drones, but they're not up there yet. You know what I mean? And the thing is I predicted this back in 2010, back when I used to do my World War III updates back on the old channel before it got banned. This channel will probably get banned too because, well, look, if they're going to break the arm of a veteran with a chest full of medals that are protesting in Israel's war. I'm pretty sure they're going to eventually take out my channel, right? So hopefully not, but is what it is. Is what it is. If my channel does go down, I had some backup channels. I don't know if I can resurrect them again or not. One was called the Northern Beacon. You can go and subscribe to that and just wait. The other one was Canadian Political Idiot, but if this goes down, so does that one, because it's a branch off. So they banned both of them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I can imagine right now there's going to be lots of internet censorship. Look, the Israelis don't have enough hate speech laws in the Western countries, anti-Semitism laws. Look, they don't have an argument for war. It's not a defensive war. Every Israeli war has always been an act of aggression. Hence why you get people yelling death to whoever. You know what I mean? Oh my God, they're yelling death to America, so let's go preemptively strike them. Yeah, and like that's going to make them, less, less likely to, you know what I mean? Again, they lash out in pain as they strike you. Like the United States, and again, a lot of the left, they're a bit disingenuous where they should have been on our side. Look, at least the right wing has been anti-war for the most of it, right? The people that they call racist, bigots, nationalists, and Nazis, these are the people that were telling you who the neocons on the right were and who the neocons on the left were, right? So there is a left and or right wing faction that is just pro-Israel. We got to go kill everybody for Israel. They're called neocons. Right? This is it's part of the Henry Kissinger doctrine, Zygmunt Brzezinski doctrine stuff, Grand Chessboard, New American Century stuff, right? And then you've got, your communist George Soros stuff on the left, right? Which is predominantly, Jewish machinations of, destabilizing countries through deracination to the point where, you got men and women to the point up here in Canada where the population now is only being sustained by immigration. which hopefully is falling. Because we were going, for the first time since 1947, we were depopulating a bit. So hopefully that stays the trend, and people remigrate themselves, just naturally. But we're about to see another migrant crisis from this. It will be Israel's fault. So when you have Israel aid on the coast of Greece and Italy and Spain and stuff, basically Portugal or whatever, or Greece and Spain, basically, come on in, refugees, and George Soros and all these NGO groups, funding all these dinghies for people to flood, through Libya and then into Europe. Well, this isn't going to be tolerated. Like the 2015 migrant crisis 2.0 is not going to be tolerated. Look, we're at a time, and I said this back in 2009 when they killed Muammar Gaddafi, that the future of the world elites is Muammar Gaddafi, because countries are getting way too angry, way too unstable. It will start. It has started. It started with Shinzo Abe, really, on it, like for big ticket names, where the guy just walked up to him and just shot him, right? I'm not calling for that, but that's what you're going to see a lot of that with politicians and stuff like that. Like, these people are not long for the world; they don't even know it yet. Again, I can guarantee you, none of these politicians, sons or daughters, unless they volunteered. But none of these politicians are going to send their sons and daughters on these warships and on these military bases. Like, what are you going to tell? Like, get Byron Trump and get him to hide in the fucking shipping container on the next missile barrage. Yeah, see what happens. People are sick of it. These world leaders, these world elites, they never have to fight the front lines. It's always been that way, but I think it's time we stop. I think there should be a law in every country that if your politicians decide to go to war, their kids, if they have kids that are not big enough to fight, the kids get put to death, as a sacrifice, right? If their kids are old enough to fight, they go right to the front line. Like they're the first wave in to the front line. They forfeit their kids. If they have no kids, when the war is over, they are executed themselves, because and it should be a world national law. No more preemptive strikes for anybody. Because look, it's not the West that does. It's not the East that are doing the preemptive strikes. Oh, but since for the past 47 years, shut up. It's lies. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if you have to use something that happened 47 years ago to justify to go to war today, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Now, like, again, this whole idea that Soleimani was the worst guy. The reason why they took out Soleimani, because he was the number one guy fighting ISIS. He was the most successful. That's why they took him out. Because Israel and the United States were openly arming ISIS, calling them Free Syrian Army, whatever. Look at the Kurds. You know what I mean? The SDF there. They want those guys to fight the Iranians now. Anyway, what else have I got? Yeah, so missile stocks, again, not looking good. The cost to replace these missiles, and the time frame. It's the time frame that's the bigger issue. Is that when you run out of the Iron Dome missiles, it takes months to replenish them. The THAAD missile systems, the Americans can only make a handful of those a year, a couple of hundred of those a year. That's it. You know what I mean? The speculation is about 5,000 THAAD missiles, and considering you fire 2 to 3 missiles every launch, and you launch out just about everything because you can't distinguish, what is it, a cruise missile coming in, is it a cheap drone coming in, whatever. It's it's just a numbers game, But even at that, the Iranians have been able to reduce the amount of their rockets, because watch the rockets coming in, there's nothing going up to meet them. So they don't need a barrage of 200 rockets. That, and they're probably running out of targets. So they probably have to, reprogram a whole bunch of new targets. So what the question then becomes, when do they sink the aircraft carriers? Because they can clearly do it. All you got to do is, okay, you got a carrier group 250 miles off the coast, or 180 miles off the coast. No matter ships at full steam aren't going to outrun cruise missiles. You know, like the range, they're like the range of the cruise missile. It's a one way. You know, like their cruise missiles reach 600 miles to 1,500 miles, right? And if you keep the aircraft carriers way out in where it's safe, then you have to, burn up a lot of fuel. Yeah, you only have two options: either tankers, which tankers themselves burn up a lot of fuel. It's a big aircraft, and you've got 64 of those in the area. You know what I mean? That is a lot of fuel. Okay. Now you can say, okay, well, we can get rid of the tankers to keep it cheap, but then you have to put 3 drop tanks on your F-18, leaving you with only 4 weapons, and they're not going to be heavy weapons. And if you only go with 1 drop tank in the middle, again, all that extra weight, it's got to be lighter weapons. So it's either tankers, get in closer, or reduce weapon loads, right? Which then prolongs the war. But even at that, they're not going to. You can send the entirety of everything the U.S. has, level Tehran to the ground. You're still not going to defeat the Iranian military. They're in mountains and caves. Like you're not going to. Like they'll rebuild their launchers. Even by the time they run out of their missile stockpiles, they're still going to be replenishing. Just the missiles at 100 a month. You know what I mean? 100 a month is enough to keep a war going for years and years and years and years and years. You'll never get around that. The launchers, these are trucks. These are, I'm sure they can pop these things out twice as fast as they can. They can use farm tractors if they want. Just use one truck and a bunch of tow vehicles. You know what I mean? Like even if the launcher gets damaged, like just factor it into the equation. Think like the 1950s rocket trucks in the Soviet or the late 1940s. The first Scud launchers. They were just like basically a farm wagon being pulled behind a pickup truck, basically. Did the job. Built them in the tens of thousands. You know what I mean? You lose one, okay, it doesn't matter. You can build 80 of these things a day, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see where we end up tomorrow. Not looking good. Again, just the optics, the political disaster. And again, how is Trump going to save face to get out of it? Because the man can. He's the faggot cocksucker can't admit when he's wrong, right? That's the problem with these type of people is never apologize, never admit when you're wrong. Well, when you're wrong, you apologize, right? The only thing he can do right now, if he wanted to save his own life, because again, there's nothing he can do. He's going to jail, or he's going to be assassinated. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying, if you're a CIA agent, you can't figure this out. That the U.S. military and veterans, everybody knows this war is bullshit. So when do the hellhounds come out? Again, you're going to kill somebody's brother, sister, mother, dad, cousin, uncle, whatever, in a fake war for Israel. There's going to be blowback, and then you're going to get a country to give up its leader so you can make a military operation look like it went well, and then you're going to stiff them. Basically Trump, if it's to be believed, basically stiffed the cartels. You know what I mean? I don't mind if you're really going after the cartels, but yeah. Anyway, I digress. So I got lots of other stuff to get to now. Yeah, who knows how crazy it's going to get by tomorrow night. But again, these cluster munitions coming in close to the warships, that would be the way I'd see them doing it is a multi-phase attack. First in comes the rocket-powered cluster munitions. The airbursts, whatever doesn't get intercepted, airbursts above the carrier group, damaging radars and stuff like that. Then you would have electronic warfare used against to jam signals as well. In would come maybe a second or third barrage, depending on how successful the first one was. While that's coming in, the drones would come in. You could have, you know, Su-24s coming in with anti-shipping missiles 100 miles out, whatever. While there's coordinated torpedo attacks from submarines, while cruise missiles are coming in. So we're talking, while these, airburst munitions, and if they time it right, there's no defense against it. You know what I mean? So we could see whenever Iran wants to sink the carrier groups, they're all within range. The closer they get, the easier it will be for them. So moving back and forth, okay, it's like, okay, we're going to stay back here, get ready for the next operation, and we're going to move in. Well, the Iranians are already onto it. They know that you're not staying at the safe distance the entire night just because you want to save some fuel, right? But you save the fuel, you're bringing in the carriers with, again, every nautical mile you come closer to shore is that much less response time you have, right? So anyway, we'll see what happens. Keep prepping, stay safe. Share the video, do whatever you got to do. I think people kind of figuring out what's going on, that, all these wars are bankers' wars and Israel's wars. And, our whole political class is just basically all they want to do is get everybody killed all the time. People are sick of it. Anyway, there we go.